So before this video starts, I just wanted to go ahead and show what comes in the sealed chest for the Sundered Sanctuary upon completion. And this is a 100% drop chance that you will get this box. 4 to 10 items, or 4 to 12 items, I believe it is, come in this chest. And the problem is there is a high chance that you will get 3 of the enhancement stones and 1 piece of gear, and that 1 piece of gear being a B gear. I do believe they need to remove a lot of the B gear out of this chest, because it's not useful at this point. We're not going into B gear anymore. We're all using B gear at L grade at this point. So why are we still getting B gear in a dungeon that drops A gear? But anyway, that's the drops in the chest. Onto the video. Hey, what's up guys, SK here, and today we're going to do a walkthrough of Dreamscale Ruined Sundered Sanctuary. First off, I want to thank Subway, Raja, Mr. Krabs, and Genesis for making this run as easy as it was. There were a few hiccups along the way, but for a team that ran as randoms without communication, I think we did pretty well. So the first boss you're going to run into in here is Dflatson Captain. His attacks go over your head if you're a melee class, so just stick close to him. And as a ranged class, I just suggest strafing left and right while using your skills. That should give you pretty much the distance that you need to avoid his stuff if you do have aggro. If you're not feeling safe with that, just move over once in a while and cast your skills, because his targeting system is really weird. So whenever he takes the 2 sticks off his back and stabs the ground like he did just now, it goes into a mash mechanic where you have to mash the button over and over until you break out. Being a berserker, I've never broken out of that and been able to get out of the way completely without taking some form of damage in the times I've run this dungeon. So I would say you're going to take a hit from it if you're a melee class, and if you're a ranged class, you should be able just to strafe and avoid it, because it's a shotgun style attack. It spreads out as it goes, so you should be able to walk in between the beams by the time they get to you. The only other regular attack you have to worry about is his bomb attack, and for that he just throws 4 bombs up in the air and they land around him. If you're a melee class and you stick close to him, you should be able to avoid the damage from that. And if you're a ranged class, as long as you are a safe distance away from him, you should be able to avoid the attack. It doesn't really do as much damage as I thought it would when I first got hit by it, but it does leave you with a burn damage over time effect, so be wary of that. Another thing I forgot to mention is that when he does do the shotgun throw fireball attack, is that it does leave a burn spot wherever it hits, and that burn damage is negligible, to be honest, but you don't want to stand there for too long because it does build up over time. So as you get close to 81%, he will run to the center of the room and go into his major mechanic, and his major mechanic is a DPS check. For those of you who don't know, a DPS check is when you have to rush DPS the boss before the timer bar fills up, and the yellow meter is your damage over time. During this time, all buffs and debuffs do help rush the DPS check along. If you do fail the DPS check for this boss, he does push you backwards and everybody takes a lot of damage, and the room will get smaller regardless of if you fail or succeed the DPS check. As the room does get smaller, the fire is a thing that grows on the outside of the room's walls, and that's what makes the room smaller, and you will take burn damage if you walk into that fire, or if you get knocked into that fire for any reason. You will take burn damage until you leave that fire. From my experience of the dungeons I've run, which would be Altar of Blood and this dungeon, the first boss is the hardest for some reason. After that, the other bosses are kind of a joke. They're just rush through DPS, and just make sure you're paying attention to what you do. The first boss is always like really just something to work with, and if you let that boss enrage, they do a lot of damage to you, and they can make or break your entire dungeon run. This boss is pretty much the same, even though the one time that I did run this and we failed the DPS check, I disconnected because my internet went out exactly at that moment, like right when we failed. And I was like, well, that was something. And by the time I got back on, everybody was already going to bed, so we didn't really even get to run it again after that. The only other issue I've run into when it comes to pushing a boss towards his DPS check is that if you push the boss too fast, they will actually overlap skills, which means he will do the stun and then go straight into the DPS check, which you have to mash out of the stun and then push for the DPS check. And having seconds off on the stun can be very damaging to your DPS. So just make sure that you're kind of I want to say preparing for the DPS check as you get close to it. Once again, his DPS check times are 81% and 51%, and once you pass those 2 DPS checks, all you have to do is run the rest of his mechanics and Just stay alive and kill him before he goes berserk. Or just wait till he goes berserk if you want the title, or achievement, or trial, or whatever you want to call it, and get that done by letting him go berserk and then killing him. We did finish this without him going berserk. We were right there with him going berserk, but we managed to finish it without him going berserk, which is a good thing, because tensions do rise when the boss goes berserk, because the boss does become able to one-hit you with some of his attacks. So to go over this as quickly as possible in the breakdown is that melee classes should stay close to the boss. Stay as pressed up against the boss as you can. You can go through most of your combos with the boss because the boss can't stop you or knock you away with any of his hits, as long as you are staying within your combo chain and as close to the boss as possible. Range classes, stay as far as your range skill allow. You have a meter check at the top of the boss's, well, under the boss's HP bar, so you can check and see how far you can be from the boss while casting your skills. And this will keep you safe as long as you strafe while using your skills, or just, you know, pay attention to when he's using his skills and move when he does. Now when the stage does get smaller, you're going to want to go ahead and adjust your strategy a little bit, because you won't have as much space to dodge and move around, especially after the second DPS check. So just pay attention to when he attacks, dodge when you need to at that point. The melee classes will be fine. The priest should probably, to be honest, the priest should probably stay up close. They won't get hit most likely, and if they do, they'll be fine as long as they can drop a heal right there on the spot where they need to be at. That way they can keep the melee classes buffed up if you're running more melee than range classes for DPS, as we are in this case. Or if you're running more range classes, stick with the range classes and make sure that they're healed up and buffed up so they can deal the damage they need to do. And that's pretty much it for the first boss. It's pretty easy to get over, and like I said, the only thing to really worry about is his shotgun to the face, because that does hurt if you are not a melee class. The melee classes do have a higher HP than the range classes. I had to double check on that because I wasn't sure why the Major Knot party died when he got so close. He got shotgunned in the face, that's why. So in between each boss there are corridors of enemies, and as you're going to see, we're going to run through this pretty quickly. I'm going to speed this up because we don't need to watch the whole thing of us running through the enemies. Now, some of the enemies in here, one of them are marked as a shaman, as you're going to see right here. It's called Sun Shaman, and when you come up to fighting these mobs, these are pretty much mini bosses in the dungeon. They don't really count as bosses, but they do take a long time to kill. They do have their own little DPS check mechanics. These shamans have the ability to heal the mobs that they're on if you don't break their DPS check. As you see, I failed a few times because I rolled out of my Earthbreaker. So don't do what I do. Don't roll out of your Earthbreaker. Don't roll out of your skill that's going to be doing all the damage you need to do to break this DPS check. If you fail the DPS check, he will just heal the mobs that are around him or her. I don't know what it is, and it will actually just make your fight last a little bit longer. When you break the DPS check, it stops the mechanic that it's going to do, and you kill it, you move on. As you go around the corner, you're going to fight like 100 of these little frogs. This is the best time for your berserkers to gain their rage before the next boss. These mobs can be dazed, stunned, knocked down, knocked up, and pushed back. So use whatever's in your repertoire to go ahead and take these bosses out. Make sure that your berserkers are gaining their rage off of these as well before the boss starts. So this boss coming up, I'm not really sure how to explain this boss too well, because it has a chance of being one of 3 bosses so far that we know of. And it's tricky to tell which boss is which. But we do know one thing: the shield in the middle of the room does affect the entire boss fight. For this boss specifically, Reeve, this is the boss that carries the spear. And if you grab the shield that's in the middle, you will actually be able to take aggro of the boss. Whoever has the shield takes aggro of the boss, and the boss will be focused on them pretty much through most of the entire fight. Now, after taking a bit of damage, the shield will drop, and you will have to go pick it up again to get the boss to focus on you. Now, this boss doesn't have any really big mechanics. At least this version of the boss doesn't. With this boss, his first mini mechanic is that he runs to an edge of the ring and he says, "Quote, Ron, it hurts," and he will do a spin attack that will knock everyone away. Do not be on the wrong side of him when he does a spin attack. I made the mistake of being on the wrong side of him right here, and I got knocked into the poison, and it started doing 519 damage quickly. And I had to run out of that and heal, and it still did another 519 damage very quickly, over and over until I was back 50% again after using a 45% potion, which was augmented by my axe, because my axe is like plus 15% on top of healing on top of that. So you saw how quickly my HP dropped. So So the second mechanic is at 70%, where he will run to the front of the room and he will say "Court Ron, it hurts" once again, and he'll do the spin attack once again, and then he'll bounce off into the poison, and then a ton of smaller versions of him will run into the room. There's no timer on killing these, and there's nothing extra. You just have to kill them, and he'll run back into the room, and the fight starts all over again. He does this mechanic again at 40%, and I feel like this fight really went really quickly because we kind of just bursted him down. So his mechanics might not have lined up with the timers that I said because of the fact that we just did so much damage to him. Now in the middle of this fight with the mini frogs, he will appear in the poison and start shooting out coins. These coins will flow across the field in a shotgun motion, and they do a ton of damage when they hit you, so you're going to be pretty much avoiding these coins and attacking these mini frogs at the same time. So the game plan should be clear out the frogs as fast as you can, so all you have to do is worry about avoiding the coins until he comes back into the room. Then you start the fight, do it all over again. At 40%, he does go back into the very same mechanic to where he summons the frogs, goes into the poison, and starts spewing out coins again. Alright, so the breakdown for this boss is pretty much this. Once you start the fight, grab the shield in the center of the room. That'll give whoever is supposed to be tanking the boss the ability to hold the aggro on the boss. The boss's default attack is built to push you backwards, and if you are at the edge of the map, it'll push you into the poison. From reviewing the video a few times, I've realized that the person with the shield does not get pushed back from his regular attack, which I'm guessing is the purpose of the shield in the first place. Then at the 10% intervals where he runs to the corner of the rooms, you just have to avoid his AoE spin. That will knock you back, and if you're on the wrong side of it, you'll get knocked to the poison and lose a ton of life. At the 70% mark, he will do his run to the front of the room, say "Court Ron, it hurts," and then spawn an army of frogs. And then in a point in that, he will start spewing out coins. And if the frogs are still alive, you'll have to deal with the frogs and the coins at the same time. The coins deal a lot of damage, the frogs don't. He'll do the same thing at 40% where he'll spawn the army of small frogs and spew coins. The way to tell which event he's going to do is that you just have to pay attention to where he goes. If it's the corner of the room, he will do the AoE spin, and if it's the front of the room, he will summon the frogs. All in all, this boss is easy to fight, but like I said, this boss won't always be the boss that's here. Apparently there are 2 other bosses that do spawn in here. I've only ever fought 1, and that is out of the 4 times that I've run Dreamscale so far, so I'm not sure when I'll be able to see the other 2, and when I am, I guess I'll upload their fights separately in another video detailing how they fight. Now if you were paying attention to the fight when it was slowed down, you would see that each attack that the boss did for his regular attack did take off a chunk of the shield. I'm guessing the purpose of that is to make sure you can gauge how many attacks you need to dodge, whereas the AoE attack he does will clear pretty much the entire shield away and probably do a little bit of damage to the person holding the shield. Yeah, this boss fight was pretty easy when it came down to it. The shield made it a lot easier than the first time I did it. First time I did it, he ignored the shield completely. We don't know if that was a bug or if that was just something we did wrong, but he ignored the shield completely, and we had to kind of kite him to win. So that was not with this party. This party was perfect when we got everything done. Now this part is going towards the last boss. Nobody wants to fight these extra mobs because there are a lot of mobs around the corner of this room going in here, and I didn't realize that when I ran into this room, so I ran directly into a set of mobs in the corner. What you want to do is wait for those mobs that were standing at the top to go past, and then you want to hug the corner of this structure in the center of the room. In this corner, there are a bunch of mobs that I ran into, so we ended up having to fight them at the top of the stairs. And that was just kind of a little nuance that we didn't really want to deal with. I didn't know they were there at first, and I quickly figured out they were there as soon as I turned the camera a little bit. So just try to avoid those mobs. Keep it less hassle for your party, and you can make sure that this next boss fight goes by smoothly and quickly, and you'll be done with the dungeon. And these mini bosses take nothing but like 2 minutes probably to clear up if they have the shaman with them. Without the shaman, they should probably take like almost a minute, maybe less than a minute. It's just a little bit of extra work that nobody wants to go through. So just try to stay clear of these bosses, and you'll be able to go straight into the boss room. We didn't want to lead this into the boss room because we didn't know what type of effect that would have while dealing with all the stuff that goes on to the boss room. So we just had to mop this up right here and move along. And once again, I'm very sorry guys if you're watching this that I pulled those on mobs. So the boss is Bandai, High Priest of the Temple, and when you go into the room and start the fight, she will do a knockback mechanic, which she does mechanic during the fight as well, where you have to time the button correctly, and if you do not, you will lose a chunk of health, but if you do, it will heal a chunk of your health as well. We call this the free heal mechanic because it is really easy to do. There is no stress built into this unless you're next to a mushroom, which really sucks. And then she does this other mechanic where she does like a lightning strike throughout the room. It stuns everybody, it hits everyone. And this one's a button input mechanic. You just have to enter the button input correctly and you won't be anything else but stunned. If you do fail, you will be stunned a little bit longer. And then at the end of that mechanic, she will slam her tail on the ground, which will put the mushrooms into action. And they will spin around and dance around the room and spin around a few times, which gets really annoying because their attack radius is pretty big and they can knock you out of your attacks as well. So another one of her electricity attacks is that she points her tail into the sky and then she points it at one party member. They become charged, and if they run near anybody else in the party, they will kill that person. The person will take a ton of damage very quickly and they will die. The person that is charged, their entire responsibility is just to stay away from the party and stay away from mushrooms, because mushrooms will knock you back into the party. Sometimes you can kind of get lucky and be near a mushroom and it won't spin out and like knock you into anything or knock you away from anything, but don't take those chances because the mushrooms are very finicky, like I said. So just avoid the mushrooms as much as you can. I know sometimes they will be in the worst spots, like right around her, and you're just gonna have to deal with it and let the long ranged either attack or you attack at the best angle you can while avoiding the mushrooms. Another one of her attacks is the aqua jets that she shoots up into the sky. You can recognize them from Bashal from the Lake of Azos region of Navarra. Before the attack goes off, you'll notice the pool of water around your feet, and all you have to do is move. You just simply move, keep running, and do your attacks if you can. So at 80%, she will go into the center of the room and she will put herself in a bubble, and this bubble activates a heal over time that heals 1% per second. At the same time, her damage check comes up, and you need to beat this damage check. I don't know what will happen if you don't beat this damage check. We've never failed the damage check, as far as I remember. But at the same time, there will be tornadoes flying through the room that you have to avoid or roll through while taking as minimal damage as possible, while avoiding the mushrooms, while still continuing damage to break the damage check. Like I said, we haven't failed the damage check, so I don't know what will happen if you fail it, but I'm pretty sure it's not good. Alright, so for breakdown of this boss, I did realize while watching the video over and over that she does have text that she says when she's about to do a certain attack on 4 of her attacks. When she says break beneath the storm, she does a thunder wave that you have to do the button input for. When she says drown in the suffering, that's your free heal mechanic, so just hit the button at the right time. And when she says fall to your knees, heretics, that's when she does the water spouts that you just have to run around and avoid while dealing damage to her. So her DPS checks come in at 81% and 31%, and at both times she will say, as she runs to the center of the room, I shall cleanse the temple of your filth. And like I said, all you have to do is break the DPS checks, dodge the tornadoes, avoid the toadstools, and deal damage. You're good. She does no text when she points her tail, so that's the only one you really just have to watch out for. Now, when she does the thunder wave, I didn't realize this until after I watched the video a few times, and I've never realized this when I was running the dungeon, the few times I did run the dungeon. But the way the thunder wave works is that she will do the AoE around her first, so you have to get out, and then you have to get immediately back in, because then she'll do a broader version of it. But the area that she did it the first time will be safe. I didn't realize that until I just watched the video, and I was like, well, I feel really stupid now. So hopefully you guys will catch that and make it through the point of this video where you will understand what she does at this point. I do feel really slow for not catching that at any other point. I just sat there and took the damage when I didn't have to, and now that I know, it will make running this boss a lot easier and make me have to burn less pots, and in the end help you out as well. So there you go, win-win. So 11%, she will stop whatever she's doing, no matter what she's doing, and run back to the center of the room, and she will say break beneath the storm. And this time she's going to do a thunder wave, and this thunder wave, there is no in and out mechanic. You literally have to either tank it or get to the corner of the room, because it doesn't for some reason hit the corner of the room. I didn't realize it until I saw the berserker where it was running towards the corner of the room as soon as she started running towards the middle of the room. And I was looking at the video like, oh, you slide, I didn't realize that. So now that's something I just learned as well. So the corner of the rooms are safe. The walls apparently not, because the mage died while she was on the wall. But the very corner of the room is safe, and if you have high HP as a berserker and a crusader, you're safe as well. As you can see, when it first hit me, I was at 100%. It took me down to 32%, just to give you a scope of how much damage it does. I did derp up the second time and die from the thunder wave. Like I said, I didn't know about the in and out mechanic, so I just stayed out thinking I'd be able to tank it again, but I was too low on HP, and the mushroom was next to me, so it kept smacking me. So it didn't really work out in my favor. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this boss. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and share if this helps you out with running the dungeon. I am making these videos because a lot of people are worried about running these dungeons without knowing anything, because the mechanics are new to them or what have you. And I do understand the fear of not wanting to run a dungeon while, you know, not having any information on it. But me making these videos is going to help a lot of people be able to push through the content and get geared up so we can run the later dungeons, so more content can open up for us before they do the next major update. So next time you run a dungeon and you have a bunch of new people with you and you're having trouble explaining it to them and they don't understand it because, you know, they're probably visual learners, share them this video, let them watch it. Make sure that they watch through the boss fights and watch the breakdowns, because the breakdowns are really helpful when it comes to understanding the boss fights. I really hope these videos do help out some people out there, because I wish these videos were out when I wanted to run these dungeons. I am more of a visual learner than just listening to what people say and hopefully figuring it out, because I don't like to fail my dungeon runs, to be honest. So yeah, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.